Oscar-winning Jedis, box office battles, and a voiceover legend. Coming up next on Real Time, Real Talk. It is Monday, March 17th, and this is Real Time, Real Talk. You're listening to a brand new movie news show reporting on the biggest stories of the week having to do with my favorite topic, film. I'm Captain Sandwich. Let's get started. Here are the headlines. In a world. If you love the overdramatic voiceovers of movie trailers way back when, this has sadly not been your week. Voiceover legend and movie trailer narrator Hal Douglas passed away on March 7th at age 89 from pancreatic cancer complications. Douglas performed voiceovers for thousands of trailers from all different genres, from Forrest Gump to Meet the Parents to Lethal Weapon. He is survived by his wife of 43 years, Ruth Frances Douglas, as well as their daughter, Sarah. Now, the reason that I decided to have this as the first story today is because I do feel it is really important. Hal Douglas wasn't any sort of Don LaFontaine or anything, and, both of them have poked fun of that numerous times. However, he still shaped the world of cinematic trailers as we know them today. Granted, a lot of people today have gone away from the traditional trailer format to something a little more, I don't know what the word is, epic as far as like big budget movies go, but they've certainly deviated from what Hal Douglas and Don LaFontaine and all the other big voice actors have been able to do. But still, Hal Douglas certainly had his legacy, and if you want to know exactly what I'm talking about, it's all right there in the trailer for Jerry Seinfeld's Comedian. For those of you who don't know about this trailer, I'll leave a link in the description. It's hysterical, and it's a perfect summary of who Hal Douglas was, and just in general, it was definitely something special. In a casting office far, far away, J.J. Abrams may be on the verge of adding some Oscar-winning power to his upcoming addition to the Star Wars film franchise. Fresh off her Best Supporting Actress win for 12 Years a Slave, Lupita Nyong'o is reportedly in talks with Abrams for a significant role in Star Wars Episode 7. Sources say that the role will not involve anyone from the original trilogy. However, it is speculated that it may be the alluded-to descendant of Obi-Wan Kenobi, who was said to be a non-Caucasian. Nyong'o is amongst a number of actors reported to be considered this week for roles in the film. In addition, a handful of actors are being tried for the lead role, including Downton Abbey's Ed Speleers and Attack the Block star John Boyega, among others. Now, one thing you'll probably notice over the course of this series is I'm not going to report much on rumors. I don't think it's fair to the real news, because rumors, it's all speculation, and none of it could be real. So my feelings are basically, why include it if it's not actual news, if it's not something that's 100% for sure. But in the case of Star Wars 7, I had to make an exception because it's such a major topic, and this is a big name drop. As I said, this is an Oscar winner we're talking about, and I like that it's kind of Abrams' way of taking the series back to its roots. It harkens back to when George Lucas and his team brought in Alec Guinness for the role of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and when he brought in James Earl Jones for Darth Vader. They really haven't done that very much. I think the biggest actor that they had in the new trilogy was like Samuel L. Jackson or maybe Christopher Lee. There really hasn't been a big, critically acclaimed actor in a Star Wars film since the days of the original trilogy, and I'm glad that Abrams is kind of taking it back, and he's showing that he's taking this really seriously, and I feel that this is definitely the right step. Box office duel. It may be safe to say now that Marvel is swiftly becoming one of the most ambitious companies in all of Hollywood. After much speculation, Marvel shocked audiences by announcing that they would not back down from a May 6, 2016 release for Captain America 3. a release date which coincides with that of DC's Batman vs. Superman. Marvel had previously announced an unnamed film to be released around that time. DC has already discussed moving their release date 1 week up, and has already done so for the Brazilian release. Meanwhile, Captain America 3 also confirmed the return of the Russo brothers as directors after their work on the first 2 films in the franchise. Now, may I first just say, I'm not shocked at all that this is going on. Anyone has any anyone who has any familiarity with Marvel and DC at all know that they've been butting heads for years, and especially with this new line of films, it's just bound to happen. Personally, though, I'm rooting for Captain America 3. I'm far more a Marvel person than a DC person, despite the fact that The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises are 2 of my favorite comic book films of all time. That's beside the point. I'm much more a fan of the Avengers series, and honestly, Man of Steel, as most people would say, it was disappointing. I didn't hate it as much as everyone else did, but I still just thought it could have been so much more than it was. And just in general, DC's been really sloppy about handling this whole situation and handling, catching up to Marvel. And they just want to, bypass all these steps that Marvel took. And I just feel like it's going to turn out bad for them. And I just think Marvel's going to come out on top. Oscar bait or fish bait? The Oscars may bring success and critical acclaim to a variety of actors, but for Captain Phillips star Barkhad Abdi, that doesn't necessarily mean paying the bills. The New Yorker reported that Abdi was actually paid his $65,000 paycheck 2 years ago, receiving no additional income since then. Abdi has spent all of the money and is now left broke and forced to take up work in a mobile phone store in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Captain Phillips, meanwhile, saw over $200 million in worldwide gross, as well as 6 Academy Award nominations, including Best Supporting Actor for Abdi. Despite this, Abdi has received no additional pay, such as bonuses, for his acclaimed performance. Some do hope, however, that the revealing of this information will pressure the studio into doing what many consider to be the right thing in lieu of bad press. Personally, I'm very, very glad this story got leaked. And I know I've heard since it got leaked that this is not an uncommon thing. This has happened to actors in the past. But I think this is really the first time where it has been publicized, at least to my knowledge. And it's something that does need to be publicized. I mean, I haven't seen Captain Phillips, but I've heard a lot of great things about Barkhad Abdi. And judging from what I've seen, it seems like definitely a noteworthy performance. Any actor that is that good, at least even that good to get, at least Oscar nominations as well as a Golden Globe nomination, he won a BAFTA award. Someone like that should not be struggling to get by. Now, luckily, he does have a film coming up, The Place That Hits the Sun, although all the information we have about it is that he's playing a Somalian marathon runner who befriends a local bar owner. That's really the only description that's been leaked so far. However, I definitely hope for the best for him. I'm very optimistic about his future, and I just hope this gets fixed. A Smurf of events. Sony Animation's The Smurfs films may not be heading in the direction that some or most of the viewing audience is expecting. In a recent Sony press release, director Kelly Asbury made it clear that the next film in the Smurfs series will be a diversion from what has been released thus far. "We're not making a Smurfs 3 film," Asbury said. "Our character designs and environments will be stylistically closer to the original artwork created by Peyo. Our story will explore the beginnings of the beloved little blue creatures in a fun, full CGI animated comedy adventure for every generation to enjoy." The aforementioned Peyo, of course, being the original creator of the Smurfs comic strip. Kelly Asbury recently signed on to direct this upcoming installment into the now $900 million film series after directing animated features such as Shrek 2 and Romeo and Juliet. When I first heard this news, I was definitely skeptical. But after looking at this guy's credentials, honestly, I'm I'm pretty optimistic. He's only been a director on the 2 movies that I mentioned. However, he's also had artistic input on films such as The Little Mermaid, The Rescuers Down Under, James and the Giant Peach, Nightmare Before Christmas, and Prince of Egypt, 2 of my favorite films of all time, Wreck-It Ralph, and most recently Frozen. So this guy is definitely not someone to scoff at. Now, I actually did see the first Smurfs film. I thought it was abysmal. Like most people, I thought it was absolute garbage. And after that, I refused to see any more sequels. But I think this guy could turn it around. I think he could turn it into something actually worth the viewing audience's time. And that'll do it for this first edition of Real Time Real Talk. Links to the full stories discussed here are in the description below. Stay tuned for Trailer Corner, where I discuss the biggest, or at least my favorite, trailers of the week. That should be up very soon. See you next week.